Have you ever been somewhere and realised you weren't really there? Perhaps you were a passenger in a car and suddenly became aware that you have no memory of the last 20 minutes of the journey. You couldn't tell someone what towns you passed through, what shops lined the roadside, what scenery looked like. And it gets to be fun when you're actually designated as the co-pilot, as I have been in the past. And yet when asked by the driver, you realise that you've lost the plot. Your body was there, but my attention was somewhere else entirely. Or perhaps you've sat down to dinner, eaten the entire meal, and barely consciously tasted or savoured a thing because your mind was busy replaying yesterday or thinking about something for tomorrow. If so, from sharings from people at my workshops, I know that I'm not alone in this. Many of us are physically living our lives while mentally being somewhere else. It's a bit heartbreaking when you really stop and think about it. How many moments do we miss because we're somewhere else? Eating dinner while checking emails, walking the beach while worrying or thinking about something next week, sitting with someone we love while mentally replaying yesterday's conversation that might have not gone that well. Physically here, mentally elsewhere. Present time, not presence. And I think this just may be one of the greatest challenges of our time in today's world, because we live in an age where our attention is constantly being pulled in 100 different directions. Many of us have like 50 browser tabs open in our mind or on our computers as well, basically before we've even had breakfast, so to speak. And while distraction has become normal, it comes at a cost. The cost is our experience of life in its fullness itself, away from that present moment. Welcome to No Fluff Spirituality. I'm Barsha Meyer, and today we're diving into a conversation that feels more relevant than ever. Let's do this. Following on from last week's conversation about the art of slowness, I found myself reflecting on something important. You can slow down your schedule, you can create more space in your day, right? But if your mind is still constantly racing ahead or wandering behind, you haven't necessarily reclaimed your life. And that's where I think many people get confused or stuck or despondent. There is a subtle but profound difference between present time and presence. Present time is simply where your body happens to be. Presence is where your awareness is. Like you can be sitting in a chair at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon while quite easily mentally replaying an argument from 3 years ago, or planning next month's project, or worrying about something that may never happen. Your body is here, but your attention isn't. Presence occurs when your body, your awareness, and your attention all arrive at the same place, so to speak, like whoosh, the moment you're actually fully inhabiting your life in presence. Feeling into this over the past few days, I sometimes wonder if presence has quietly become a lost art. Not because people don't care, but because distraction has become so normal that we really question it or even take time to reflect on it. I felt into it a bit deeper, and I sort of looked back to when my children were growing up. We never actually had a television in our home. Occasionally we'd project a movie onto a big white sheet pinned up on the wall for the evening. we'd make homemade popcorn and turn it into a family event. And then when the movie was finished, we'd switch it off. And that was sort of like that signal, now we're back to being at home. And instead of television, our children's days were often filled with baking, drawing, painting, outdoor activities, and those elaborate Lego cities that seemed to take up the whole entire lounge floor for days. Looking back, I realised what we were really creating wasn't entertainment. We were creating opportunities for presence. And also sort of looking back, I don't remember every conversation. I don't remember every meal. But what's poignant is that I do remember the feeling, the felt sense, that sensation that lingers, and it's like a beautifully encoded and scripted in our memory box, and we can draw on it if we sit in presence and tune in to that memory. That feeling of people together, fully there, laughing in that moment. And perhaps it is what presence leaves us with. Not more information or more productivity, but deeper memories. The kind that stay with us long after the moment itself has passed. I'm not really talking about nostalgia, and nor am I suggesting that we all throw our phones into the ocean. This is simply an observation, a conversation. Presence tends to flourish when we intentionally create space for it. I once had a client ask me, why does presence matter? Does she need to meditate longer? Is she doing it in that right way? So from that, it sort of seems that people often think presence is some lofty spiritual achievement, or they're concerned with how they are doing it. No judgment. That it might be something reserved for monks, meditation retreats, or people sitting cross-legged in mountain caves. Personally, I don't see it that way. And over the years, my sense is that presence can be incredibly practical. Presence improves conversations. It can deepen relationships. What it also can do is help us notice opportunities. And for me, and I'd love you to experiment with this, it definitely shapes and sharpens intuition. What it does, it also allows us to actually hear what another person is saying instead of them mentally rehearsing our reply. You might think back to primary school when you all sat in a circle and the teacher went one by one and you had to recite a poem or something or a sharing, and you were so busy rehearsing what you're going to say that you sort of missed out on everyone else's sharing until it was your turn. Presence also develops the ability to hold sacred space for another, which is really quite beautiful and allows us to walk through nature and genuinely see it. See the droplets of the dew on the leaves. And rather than moving through life on autopilot, we can experience it deeper. But the point that I really would like to hone in here is presence reconnects us with ourselves first and foremost, if we allow it to. And perhaps that's why so many people are craving it. Not because they need another mindfulness exercise or this technique or that modality, but because somewhere beneath all the noise, many people are longing to feel home in their own bodies, in their own lives, and in their own home where they live. Longing to stop constantly living somewhere else other than where they actually are. And in light of this conversation, we could say That presence is a return. Presence is not something we achieve. It's something you keep returning to if you choose to. Again and again, throughout the day, throughout your life. A return from tomorrow. A return from yesterday. A return from worry. A return from overthinking. A return from all those mental tabs running quietly in the background. Back to this breath. Back to this conversation. Back to this moment. Back to what is actually here. And remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's not to become permanently present. The exercise or the experiment is simply to notice where you've drifted when perhaps it is not serving you and gently come back. And what the beautiful part is, the moment you realize you've become distracted is already a moment of presence. You've returned. No guilt required and no self-judgment, just return again and again and again. So if you'd like to experiment with this, here's a simple practice. Several times tomorrow, pause and ask yourself, where am I right now? Not mentally, not emotionally, physically. Where am I? Notice the chair beneath you, the temperature of the air around you, the sounds around you, the colour of the sky, the feeling of your feet touching the ground. You don't need to meditate for an hour. You simply need to return. And your soul is inviting you to return. It's like a divine movement. Before we finish, I'd like to touch on one final piece. Trust. Because presence becomes much easier when we trust. For others, trust looks like prayer. For some, meditation, nature, source energy, a quiet knowing. A connection with something greater than ourselves is often the way to connect. Whatever form it takes, trust softens that need to constantly control the future. And what I find also for myself is that life isn't happening somewhere else. It's happening now, right here, right now, and every moment afresh anew. And when we trust that, it becomes easier to arrive in the present moment. If you're enjoying these conversations and would like to stay connected, you'll find links in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be grateful if you subscribed so you don't miss out on future conversations. I'll leave you with this thought. What moments of your life might you be accidentally missing because your attention is always somewhere else? Not next year, not next month, not tomorrow, today. This conversation, this meal, this walk, this sunset, the person sitting in front of you. Because presence isn't something here to achieve. Remember, we discussed, let's explore looking at it as something you keep returning to. Again and again, it draws you back to the sacred present moment. And perhaps that's because when you really think about it, this moment is all there ever truly was and is. And this is where your life is happening right here, right now. And perhaps that return is one of the most sacred things we can practice in this distracted world. This is no fluff spirituality, business life and spirit for the new era. Grounded, clear, real. I'm Basha Maya, and see you next week in the pod.